Hi, this is K.N.Fitzwater. You're watching my channel, and we are continuing our life. And we had a play date to do. And alright, we're just gonna get into it. Early the next morning, you were poking at your food, eating it slowly. Your sister Lizzie had run out earlier to go play, but you stayed put. Today, just like your moms had promised, Cove was coming over to hang out. Aw, aren't they a perfect picture? Aren't they so nice? Excited to meet your new friend, Cypher? I guess. With that said, are you done with your breakfast? I could go, yeah, or, ha, I don't know, am I? Or, your bowl was entirely empty, so you nodded. So I selected, yeah. With all the exasperation an 8-year-old could muster, look at your empty cereal bowl, then at Mom. Okay, attitude, kid. We see. Good job. He should be here soon. Clean up again, and then on cue, there was a knock. It was hesitant, like the person wasn't sure they were in the right place. Still loud, though. You need to get a more obvious doorbell. I know, I know. Zephyr, could you get it? Because Mom said so, you wandered over to the door. Poe's dad. Hey, Flare family. Thanks for having us. Mr. Holden, as your moms had called him, and his son were here. Both looked different in the bright lighting of your living room, and and okay, and when he wasn't crying, with his dad standing in front of him and mommy and daddy behind you, you and Cove looked at each other. His daddy code apathically. Oh jeez. This was the parents' plan, not yours. Not seeming any more excited than you were, he just stared back. Why don't you go play in your room, Cypher? Sure. So my room is this way. Okay. Let us know if you need anything, you two. Have fun, kids. See you later, son. Play nice. When I was a kid, I never had anything like this. I didn't have this cool cupboard. I didn't have this kind of bed. Um, the desk is a really cool setup. I just had a normal wooden desk, a huge dresser. Actually, me and my sister shared rooms together. So we had a huge line on our wall, our dressers, and we put all sorts of stuff on top of it. And we had our own school desk at our separate corners. And then we have our beds. So that was the setup for the longest time. And whichever house we had to go to, we always had to have the master room because me and her have to, share. And that's the way it was for the longest time. You led him to your room, puffing out your chest a little at the sight of your treasures. There were lots of stuffed animals, a cool bed, a window to look out. It was a great room. You hadn't had anyone to show it in a while, but you're really proud of it. He leaned in a little close to one of your drawings on the wall. I like this. I could go, me too. I drew that. Thank you. I don't. So it's entirely up to you, and I could see why the color coordination does help with the choices. I selected this one last time. You're welcome. You smiled at him. You were proud of that particular piece of art. and you were glad he noticed it. He turned to look around the room a little more, studying the books on your desk and the pictures on the walls. You started to feel a little nervous. You feel the atmosphere was kind of awkward. You were glad for the company. You hope you liked your room. Actually, I would be. If I had my own room with my own setup like this, I would hope that it would be a nice place for him, especially if I have to be the one who cleaned it up and presented. If I ever were in a situation like this, I never had a room by myself before. You have put a lot of effort into making your room as nice as it was. You hope he didn't say anything bad about it. Then his eyes landed on the tiny box of beach things you collected, tucked away by your door. He took a step towards it, before hesitating and pointing at it instead. What's that? A hoard of stuff I found on the beach. Do you have any driftwood in there? Dragging the box into the middle of the room, you and Cove flopped down next to it. Yeah, you gestured to a piece at the bottom, still covered with specks of sand. Neat. This is a good collection. You got the sense from the tone of his voice that he wasn't just saying it to be nice or to be like Shiloh. He actually meant it. And don't worry, folks, we get to say Shiloh in a short time. Ah, Shiloh is coming over. Shiloh? My sister's friend. He wants to meet you. Do I have to see him? He'll be okay, I think. Here, I found the shell in a log, and you pulled out seashell after seashell, explaining where you got in each one, holding them up against the light. There were big ones, small ones, some of the size of your head. Pink, purple, and orange. Most of them you washed off in the bathroom sink when you brought them home, cleaning off the sand. Me and my sister had my mom's seashell collection. And I didn't know when I was a kid it was my mother's collection. I thought it was my sister's because it's always on her dresser. And she ended up giving it away later on without my mom knowing it. Um, so, what was left of my mom's San Francisco experience as a kid on the beach accidentally went away. And I didn't know. And I don't know if my sister knew um, that it was actually technically hers, but she gave it to her. And time to time, when I was really bored, I wanted to dump them on the carpet and just give a good look over and just appreciate what they look like. But there was some sand in that jar, and I was scolded once for washing them at one point, and turns out that sand is really good in preserving artifacts, including shells, and washing them can have um, an effect on them. This is why in archaeology, during Egyptian jigs, when they're done with them, they cover them up with sand later on to try to preserve them. Because the open air and the friction of the air currents can um, end up damaging what was there on the murals. The sand kind of creates an insulation so long you make enough where it's not going to move. So, yeah. Um, So if you do have a seashell collection and we have a really good vessel to put them in, having sand in there is not a bad idea unless you are going to just preserve them in a very enclosed container like a tin can or a some sort of mason jar. Okay, but enough of that. Let's move on. Over the past few years, you even learned some of their scientific names. When I was a kid, I wasn't able to do that. I was able to do that with bones, but not with shells. The collection was so huge and varied that you had lots of funny stories to tell for all of them. Your voice faltered a little bit, but you kept going as best as you could. I went with this one, because I was a bit of a storyteller when I was a kid. Apparently fascinated either by the stories or by the shells themselves, Cove listened with what looked like a full force of his attention, like when you almost got pinched by a hermit crab while searching for shells, or after watching him scuttle back into the ocean, you found another empty shell that was almost a twin to his home. It was a new experience to be center of such dedicated focus, even if it was only directed at the shells. Kids, come down to the living room. You could tell the idea was making him unhappy, but Mommy wasn't giving him much of a chance to hang around. Coven hadn't been like this meeting you. I guess it was because he thinks you found each other by accident, not that a parent made it happen. Mr. Holden must be right that telling Cove his dad was part of what would be a bad idea. Before you knew it, you had both been escorted downstairs and deposited in the living room, ready for Shiloh's visit. The two of you sat side by side on the floor of your home's entryway. I brought the box of shells. I want to keep looking at them. Great! Okay, but be careful. You should have asked. I think, if I remember right, I would have said this. I will. You weren't sure if you could trust someone else with your treasures yet, so you stayed next to him while he opened the lid and peered inside. Puff reached in and put out a big orange shell. Oh. Like he hadn't spoken aloud yet, he turned to you and held it up, his eyes shining. I think this one's the best of them. That's my favorite too. I like a different one best. I could show it to you. You could take it. I went with this option. Cove looked at you in surprise, his eyes going wide. Really? Sure, you like it a lot, right? Uh-huh, but I don't want to take it from you, if it's okay. You got the impression he was hesitant to accept something because he didn't know you very well. I went with I insisted. No, it's okay for you. Again, I love the art and the animation. It's really cool. You pushed the shell against Cove's chest, willing him to see the present, but Cove firmly shook his head, kept his arms tightly at his sides. It was a battle you couldn't win, at least not today. Cove was your neighbor now. Maybe you could give it to him another time. The two of you still sitting on the floor, looking through your collection of beach findings when the doorbell finally rang. Cove jumped, startled by the sound. Since the person hadn't knocked, you figured it was probably Shiloh. You knew where to look for that. Z's friend? You nodded, but that didn't seem to make Cove feel better. It's already obvious that Cove didn't hide his feelings well. You could tell what he was thinking right away. This isn't a good idea. I'm sorry, there's nowhere to go. He's at our only door, and if you go upstairs, he'll find you. Cove glanced around the room, his eyes wide, and finally paused with his gaze locked on to the back of the house. I could go out the window. He was already walking towards it. At first, I was like, warning, 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 danger, Robinson, warning. I was like, oh no, he's going to jump through the window to avoid a situation. But he's such an introvert. I mean, part of me kind of understands where he's coming from, but you just gotta have to suck it up and just deal with it sometimes. Scrambling to think of something to say, he stepped forward, then paused. Do you want to break your other arm? Shallow's the least scary person alive. Cheer up. Shallow's gonna like you. Please don't get hurt. I'll come with you. Good idea. Let's go. So I'm gonna say, don't you want to break your arm? Even I don't jump out of windows here, and this is my house. The distance from the first floor living room wasn't far, but you could tell it made Cove nervous anyway. He touched the cast on his arm. The wind had clearly released from the sails. I don't want to break any more bones. I don't think anyone wants to. Yeah. But I don't want to see him. I don't know him. You teased him. You comforted him. You encouraged him. I was torn between these two, and I think I went with this. Trust me, you'll be okay. Okay. Shiloh put his head into the living room. It was impossible to know for sure if he heard what you'd been saying or not, but you guessed that he had. Hi, Cypher. And, Cove? Cove shot you an uneasy glance. Hi. I'm Shiloh. It's nice to meet you. Yeah. You have a lot of freckles. Oh, right. I do. What are you guys doing? Looking at shells. Awesome! Can I do it too? Cove shrugged, then looked at your box of beach findings. What about that one? The plan for the afternoon, at least as far as you were concerned, was to sit and look at the beach things some more. You weren't really in the mood to do much of anything else. You held out a recent find to Cove, a scalloped shell that had washed up on the shore. It's a pretty color, unlike my cast. The beautiful glittering pink did look a little bit like the wrap around his arm. Pink is a nice color. Okay. What is your favorite? Not really. What is? Maybe green or blue. It might be yellow. Oh, those are all cool. I guess. Now, I'm not sure. I've yet to do my video edit, so I don't know if the voice acting in the game is heard on the audio. So I will be voicing over those. There may be some redundancies. I could go with, I like those colors too. Those are better colors. Not sure how to deal with the suddenly more awkward silence. You look back at your shells. I probably would have done this. I know I selected this one, but now thinking back when I was a kid, I actually preferred any color other than pink. So I would have said something like that. Says you. Like usual, it doesn't take long for Shiloh to get fidgety. Lizzie was his favorite. Without her around Shiloh, it didn't seem to know what to do with himself. And Cove wasn't like your sister. It wasn't that much like you either. Is Lizzie coming back? I don't know. Aww. Where'd she go? I think she's at the beach, probably. Is she playing at her park? Cove's eyes lit up at the mention of the park, and he looks towards you. There's a park? Yeah, but it's old. Can you show me? I want to go. He started getting up before you even had answered, and Shiloh jumped up beside him in excitement. Really? You do too, right, Cypher? The park is so much fun. Okay, I went with this route. Yeah, it's right at the beach, so there's lots of fun stuff to do, and it's lots of sand. It has a jungle gym and a bunch of swings. Sounds like it will be cool. So, we're going to find Lizzie? I don't know. I never really wanted to see her. I just want to check the park out. Adrift without any direction, Shiloh finally turned to you. Okay. He perked up. Both boys wanted to go. It was only fair. After getting permission for your moms, the three of you were ready to head out. It was a short walk to the park. Lizzie had convinced your moms that it was so short she could always be allowed to walk there by herself. When you found her, she was hanging on the jungle gym, swinging back and forth. Hey, Lizzie. Her voice lit up. Her face lit up when you saw her, her big brown eyes going wide. Cypher! Shiloh! Hey! She dropped to the ground and landed with a soft thud in the sand. In a split second, Shiloh had abandoned you two and scrambled over to stand by her. You were used to being left out when it was just the three of you, but now, Cove was here. You weren't sure if this was an improvement. Who's that? It's Cove. He's new. I remember. Hi, Cove. Welcome to my park. Nobody ever comes to play here, so this is where we get together. She gestured widely with her arms as if to present the area to the newcomer. Without interrupting Lizzie's speech, Cove whispered in your ear, quiet enough that the others wouldn't overhear. I thought kids can own places like parks or hills. He remembers! You couldn't help but laugh a little bit. While Lizzie continued talking, you took the chance to kick off your shoes and wiggle your toes through the warm sand. Nice, huh? In this neighborhood, I'm the one who comes up with the ideas. You are? Yeah, I am. Who else could handle the job? Lizzie's the oldest. By a lot. My mom said you're Cypher's age. Yeah. Thought so. I'm still the only one in this group with double digits. For those who didn't know, she is actually 10 years old. What about the other kids? Other kids? There aren't any. We're the only kids here, and Shallow's just visiting from another place. Not even tourists really bring their kids here. This is the land of ancients. Be careful that the oldest don't try to steal your youth. Oh. For a second, it looked like he might cry again. See, this part surprised me. I didn't think that he would cry over something like this. And I'm also shocked that he doesn't like meeting other people, but he was wanting other kids. So, I don't know. It's a little bit of a hiccup in his character. But something in his eyes shifted and he looked back at Lizzie. What kind of old people? Like mom and dads or grandparents? Grandparents who don't have kids. They hate kids. Why? We haven't done anything. I could say only some of them don't like kids. Stop saying stuff like that, you're gonna upset him. Yeah, they're really bad. I would say some, because I remember growing up, um, there are some really nice adults. Even though I was really shy and I didn't like strangers, the ones who knew my mom, most of them were pretty nice. You interjected quickly, hoping Lizzie wouldn't take things too far. Cove sniffled, his forehead creasing with worry. Lizzie was staring Cove down, but Cove wasn't even looking at her anymore. He didn't seem to care that she was there. He went into his own head. I also speculate that later on, as this story progresses, there may be a competition between me and her over Cove. But we'll see. This is only the free version of the game. Shiloh was the next one to speak, completely unaware of the situation. I met Lizzie and Cypher in school. You see tons of kids there when summer is over. I don't want to go to a new school. I don't want summer to end. Shiloh looked down to the dirt. He hasn't had much luck striking up conversations with Cove. I like summer vacation a lot. All the building tension in the air suddenly vanished when Lizzie laughed. At Shiloh's discomfort, at how weird she thought Cove was, at something else entirely you didn't really know, but she laughed, face scrunching up. Welcome to Sunset Burr Cove. Take a seat, put up your feet, and get used to it. Uh, it's why I can't speak today. For the rest of the summer, Cove was always there. You saw her more often than Shiloh, and on some days, when she was in a bad mood or bossy, you even saw him more than Lizzie. He became a staple of your everyday life, the way sun and lunch and beach were. That first summer, you hadn't really been interested in him one way or the other. It was just kind of fact of life, someone you met with because he was there. Of course, that was only the start of things. Dun dun dun! So here we have all the free content. Oh, excuse me. And all the vignettes that we get to go through. And this is all the unlockables down below. So I'm not going to spoil the lockables. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and just play it at your own leisure. And that way you won't be spoiled in case you took a sneak peek and see how this game is. And of course, if you don't like the choices I made, you're more than welcome to go and play this game and select your own choices. I highly encourage to do whichever you want, because I'm sure that you guys would totally select different things for this thing. But my favorite vignette is the Fireflies, so we're going to try that one first. All right, tonight we're going to catch fireflies. At this blunt declaration from your sister, you look up for your macaroni and cheese dinner. Fireflies were a common sight over summer, coming out on warm nights to dance through the sky. Tonight was particularly balmy. You knew there were bound to be a ton of them around. Oh, and this is one of those. Yep. Okay. Oh, you are you? I could say, yeah, or you start eating faster. You look over to your mom's, or you push your food around your plate. I would do this. It would have snapped my attention out of whatever I'm doing. They had an answer for sure. That's what Lizzie said you do. Probably what you end up doing. Lizzie was an expert getting her way, having mastered the art of it by the time she could talk. That's a good idea, Lizzie. Can we, Mrs. Flair? Shiloh tapped his fork against the table excitedly, his face lighting up as he looked at Lizzie. It was unusual for Shiloh to still be here. Like always, his mom had to bring him over really early in the morning before her job started. But normally, she would have picked him up by now. She called before dinner to let your moms know she'd be late. Didn't hear why. Probably more work things. He thought maybe getting to hang out with Shiloh for longer is what made Lizzie wanted to keep running around outside. Staying at home watching TV was never an option for her with guests over. That's why you're pretty sure she'll get your moms to agree. Now, I have to interject. I really like her character. They say that she's really bossy and rude and, commanding, but I could see why she has to do that. I'm the middle child. I had an older sister, so I get what it's like being a younger sibling. But I also have a younger brother, and I totally get where she's coming from. Um, Especially with guests. You want to entertain your guest, and she liked the outdoors. If I had guests over, we'll try to do more stuff other than TV or watching or something. Um, like frisbee or kickball or whatever it was back then. Um, so I totally understood where she's coming from. And I wouldn't call her bossy. Um, she usually is the type to take initiative on things. And being the older sister, she probably feels, you know, the obligation to take care and entertain others around her. So that's why she likes to take charge and come up with ideas to, keep us entertained. Because I've done that before with my brother. So I get where she's coming from as a character. But anyway, let's continue. Well, it's kind of so dark out there. Lizzie gave Mom the best puppy dog eyes she could, slowly spooning mac and cheese into her mouth while you waited there for their response. Let them go. Nights like this don't happen every day. Parents exchanged a look, then Mom eventually sighed and nodded back. Yes! Fine, fine. Just make sure you stay on the hill behind our house with all the poppies, okay? Duh, Mom. That's where most of them are. The idea only made. Ooh, sorry. The idea had only just been planted in your head. Already, you could just picture all the glowing lights spreading out in front of you, like the fairies from the bedtime stories Mommy reads sometimes. Lizzie and Shiloh started digging into their food, and it soon became a race to see who could finish their dinner first. Aren't you excited to go outside and play, Cypher? You gave a non-committal shrug. Cypher's just mad because I always catch the most. Lizzie boasted proudly, her mouth full of food, and Mom gave her a stern look. Elizabeth! A knock on the door interrupted Mom before she could no doubt scold her sister. I'll get it! Your big sister jumped out of her seat and ran over to the door, pulling it open without even looking out the window to see who it was. Huh? You shifted in your seat to try to get a glimpse of the unexpected guest. Good morning, Clove. Your mommy had already walked to the door by the time you managed to see past Shiloh's floppy hat. Why is Cove here? Something wrong? He didn't give you any clear acknowledgement, his eyes firmly fixed on the ground in front of him. You shrugged, going back to shoveling a forkful of macaroni into your mouth. Then, for a few seconds, Cove said nothing. He stood there and looked up at your mommy with a face almost like he's considering turning around and leaving. My dad told me to drop this off because I guess he borrowed it from you. Cove took a familiar screwdriver from out of his large side pocket. Eyes now dropped to the floor. Left ours back home when we moved. Great! Thanks, bye! Thank you. Here, why don't you come inside for a bit? Already, the tension's clear between the two of them. Lizzie crossed her arms and lifted her chin. Cove shrugged, and Marm stood from the table too. I'll give your dad a call to let him know you got here all right. Cove shoveled fully inside, his eyes remaining on the ground. Mommy closed the door behind him. Hi, Cove! Shiloh gave Cove a friendly smile while waving by holding up his hand and opening and closing his fingers. Like this. Cove nodded in response. I selected this one way back when. You could see Lizzie eyeing you for mentioning the excursion to the outsider, but she'll get over it. If Cove said no, you understand though. Catching fireflies wasn't something that everyone liked to do. I want to see them. I never caught one before. It's too bad he didn't have a chance before now. The fireflies weren't out when he first moved in. There must have not been any where he used to live. I had fireflies back where I lived. Um, in fact, we called them something else. I think we called them lightning bugs. We couldn't go until after dinner. After she pointed this out, Lizzie walked back to the table and took her seat. There wasn't much left on her plate. Since this was very true, you decided to finish up your own stuff as well. Cove stepped closer and eyed what was on the menu for your family's meal. Have you eaten? Yeah, my dad and I ate earlier. What did you have? Eggs. Oh, I forgot. That was so sad. The clipped one word answer seemed to discourage Shiloh from asking any more questions. His eyes slowly wandered back to the last scraps of food on his plate. Her phone call with Cove's dad must have ended because your mom came back into the room. Cove, your dad said you could stay a little while if you like, but he's going to come get you before it gets too much later. Sure. Oh, fun. This would be so nice. As you polish off the meal, you hope it would be too. Hold on. I misread that. Oh, you hope it would be too, as in, you hope it would be fun also. Okay, sorry. The three of you all finished eating shortly after, and Lizzie led the way outside. Remember, don't stray too far. It's fine, Mom. Shiloh trailed so closely after Lizzie he was nearly stepping on her heels. Cove hesitated on the door, smiled lightly at Cove, gesturing for him to follow. After a moment, he did. Bye, children. The two of you were a good 10 or 15 feet behind Lizzie and Shiloh by the time you walked outside. You pushed the door shut behind you, watching their figures get farther and further away. You're so slow, Cypher. You don't have all night. Or we don't have all night. Sorry. You started to run when you heard Lizzie's voice calling you, but paused when you saw Cove still walking at a relaxed pace. Are you not going to come? You tugged him along. You walked with him. You waved at him to hurry. He ran off. I select the waving to hurry. Let's catch up. Cove stay silent. Didn't look too excited by the idea, instead dragging his feet along the pavement as he followed behind you. You shrugged your shoulders. Cove didn't want to stay with the group, then you meet them on your own. Say, that would have been a little bit different. I would have just waved, and if he really did want to catch up, I'll try to insist to walk with him a little bit, but then eventually I'll go with the rest of the group. I would try to insist a little bit further, but you know, they have warned about this in this game that not all the choices are going to be, you know, just right. You reached the hill in no time, just behind Lizzie and Shallow, who were standing on the top, surrounded by bright winking lights. There was barely any wind, which made it perfect for the little lightning bugs to be out exploring the big wide world. A grin broke across your face as you raced to join them, admiring the fireflies that bobbed around like buoys on a wave in the morning light. In the moonlight. Sorry. Where's Cove? He's coming. You pointed behind. Sure enough, after a second, Cove rounded the corner, so not in any rush. Wow. Charlotte took a moment to come over and welcome the both of you to the hill. Hey guys! It's really great out here, huh? See how many there are! Yeah. A firefly danced through the air, landing on Cove's sea-green head. Shiloh can help but giggle. You and Shiloh can help but giggle. You quietly look on. You shoo the bug away. I would go with this. Covering your mouth with a hand, the sound escaped you, and Cove looked at you in confusion. What? Oh, Lizzie has one. That's amazing. Shiloh ran to the highest point of the hill, making sure not to lose his hat or backpack along the way. You hummed as the group divided and conquered, shifting your gaze to the dozen of other fireflies sailing around. The game was on. Spotting one close by, you approach it with assassin-like stealth, crouching down to make yourself seem like less of a threat. Slowly dragging one foot in front of the other, you crept up towards it, arms outstretched. Close your hands around the little glowing orb, careful not to crush it. Firefly landed on your palm, almost docile. Stare down at your prize in delight. His tiny legs tickled your skin, and you giggled at the sensation. Cove kept up with his own target, but when he tried to grab it with his pink calves, waved awkwardly through the air, foiling his efforts to clap his hands around the firefly. Ugh. Cove watched it vanish into thin air with a dissatisfied expression on his face. Okay, so a little bit of story time. I remember one of the gals in my elementary orchestra class had a cast, and she was able to continue bowing on her violin with a cast on. Even though it was really a 90-degree hook and she had to kind of move the violin along with it, she was able to do a really good job with the cast on. So I learned over time with her in my class that they don't really like being other people don't like being put in the bubble or being helped, when they know they could do it themselves. So from here on out, this would explain why I really let him do his own thing. Because I figured that if he really wanted help, he would have let me know. I had encouraged him to try again. You walked up beside him and gave him an encouraging smile. Cove didn't say anything, and you thought he must be upset. You walked further up the hill to continue his hunt, and let your own firefly flutter back into the air. That was fine. You had your own plans. You decided to sit on the grass and watch. See, I don't go around collecting fireflies. I like looking at them. I like the atmosphere of seeing, the grass and the shade and seeing the fireflies dot around the sky. I really liked that when I was a kid. You quietly took a seat among the flowers. The others were jumping and dashing all about. Saw how many times they succeeded and failed. How Shiloh almost tripped a couple of times. It was a dramatic show. Though around you it was calm. The lights of the stars and the fireflies surrounded you peacefully. It was a beautiful sight. You laughed quietly to yourself as you watched the others. Shiloh managed to catch a firefly between his small hands. His eyes lit up, and when he spread his fingers to take a peek at it, the bug escaped and flew off into the air. Oh! You watch as he pounced after once more, but your eyes soon landed on Cove, who had failed to catch a firefly yet. You waited to see what happened. You watched as he crept up on an unsuspecting bug, so slowly that for a moment you wondered if he was still moving at all. Then he raised his hands towards one of the little bobbing balls of light, closing in on it ever so slowly. No! The crafty little critter had escaped his clutches at the last moment, drifting too high for Cove to reach. While Cove returned to hunting fireflies, he settled for laying back against the soft grass, watching the poppies sway around you and the flowers hovering above the vast sky. Zephyr, Cove, get up here. We're gonna have a race. The shouting caught you off guard. It's been quite a while since you heard from Lizzie or Shiloh. You glance over to see them both standing on top of the hill again. Lizzie beckoning you with quick hand gestures. If she was like that, you knew there wasn't much room for disagreement. Up the incline you went. In the corner of your eye, you saw Cove was coming as well. He didn't care for Lizzie a lot, so you thought he might be intrigued by the idea. Hi. Hi. Cove, you can't roll down the hill. You could hurt your arm again. You'll be the referee for the rest of us. As Lizzie pointed this out, Cove froze in place. Oh, it was that kind of race. He frowned down at his cast. That was the second time he got in the way tonight. What? Yeah, you'll watch and see who gets to the bottom first. That's important, you got it? I guess. The cast was sturdy. If he was careful, he could have done it. Lizzie might have been looking for a reason to make someone else the referee, but it was already decided. So I did this. I had a gut feeling that it may not be safe, so I went with this. I went into position to get into the race. Satisfied with this, Lizzie moved to lay down, and Shiloh did the same. Cove stood silently to the side to get a better vantage point. It seemed like he was taking this newfound referee's duty seriously. Countdown! You quickly got into position as well, resting on your side in the grass, taking your arms close to your chest. 3, 2, 1, go! The three of you took off, letting gravity do the work and rolling at high speed towards the bottom. You squeezed your eyes shut, a delighted laugh leaving you, and consequently allowing a few blades of grass into your mouth. You sputtered, reaching up to wipe them away, threw you off balance, and sent you careening sideways. Ugh! Ah! Everyone started too close together because the slight turn you made. Then Shiloh, then Lizzie collided into a heap. You tumbled down the last few feet in the pile. Shiloh's elbow was in your stomach, and you're pretty sure Lizzie's hair was in your mouth. But you had survived. Perhaps it would have been. I almost died. I swallowed a lightning bag. Perhaps it wouldn't have been safe for Cove after all. You could hear him laughing in the distance. You probably would have enjoyed watching. When you opened your eyes, you saw the starry sky above, and Cove still on the top of the hill, staring down at the three of you with an amused look on his face. Hey, could crash. I think Shiloh was the first one at the bottom. That didn't count. We need a redo. Kids, it's time to come in. No. You sighed, not knowing if it was from contentment or exasperation, and you closed your eyes again. It had gotten late and was beginning to feel just a bit chilly as you made your way out of the hills, but the cold in the air hadn't dampened anyone's spirits. 4 of you walked back home together, side by side down your neighborhood street, discussing the evening, with each person trying to prove that they were the one who caught the most fireflies. You knew that whoever really did the catch the most didn't matter much anyway. All that mattered was that y'all had a good time, which, judging by the smiles on everyone's faces, you did. Aww. This is one of my favorite vignettes thus far. And that's the episode. So we did the play date, we did the Fireflies. I feel pretty good about this. If you like this episode, please do give me a like. If you want to see other videos I've done, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's totally free, it doesn't cost you anything. And you get to know when I do these uploads every Friday. And I'll see you next time. Bye.